Yeah, we're live. 7:14. Close. I was actually, I'm also loading a video up right now. So I'm getting back to, in April, getting back to the 10, 15-minute videos also, not just the live. So we're going to be doing all of it. I just got back from West Tech. So I did a lot of testing down there and I have a lot of videos to put up. In fact, we're going to have a poll tonight about which one I should put up first. The video that I'm putting up today is from before, actually before I went down there. So it isn't any of the testing that I did while I'm down there, but I did a bunch of stuff. And so later on we'll put a poll up and we'll talk about. I'll ask you guys your opinion on what you think I should put up first. But the thumbnail that I put up today is maybe one of my favorite big blocks that I've ever run. And that is the Dart 540 SHP short block. It was a low compression deal because it was a flat top piston. It's not terribly low given that it was 540 cubic inches, but it's still fairly low. It's still way down in the boost. I think it was sub 9-1. So it was definitely in what we would call the boost friendly range. And so tonight, what I want to talk about is not particularly that motor, because I think we've talked about that before on the live feed. And when I talked about sometimes talk about my favorite stuff, and that Dart 540 definitely is right up there on the big block stuff. I like the Blueprint one was good too. This one, the Blueprint came complete as a long block, so it was semi-complete. But the Dart came as a short block, and we had to put all the things on it. But it worked very well, and I ran lots and lots of tests on it. We did a ton of stuff with it. And every time we did something with it, it worked fantastic. It ended up making over 800 horsepower, naturally aspirated with a tunnel ram and stuff on it. And it was pretty good given the compression, how low the compression was. And we ran a single plane, a dual plane, and then the YN tunnel ram, which is, the kind of old school summit racing, kind of deal, goes way back to the 660 center squirter days. But it worked fairly well. And then it made even better power once we upgraded the tunnel ram from that simple YN tunnel ram, which I think was probably in the 775 range or something, if I remember right. And then we went a good bit over 800 with a Wilson ported Dart tunnel ram and bigger carburetors too. It had 1050 dual 1050s on it, where the YN had dual 4150s on it, probably 950s, I think, on the YN tunnel ram. It had a big cam, and it had a 270, 280 at 50 kind of camshaft, something near 800, mid 700 to 800 lift kind of thing. It was a good sized cam, not your typical street motor. And this is that Dart is always the example that I use when people are talking about, oh yeah, with you got to have, when you run big cams, you got to have compression. Actually, I think the reverse would be more true, because the camshaft actually doesn't care about compression. It will still do what the camshaft does, regardless of what compression you have. And it doesn't do better with more compression. Compression helps everywhere. So compression, like if we go from 8-1 to 9-1, we gain a percentage of power. And if we go from 9-1 to 10-1, we usually gain a percentage of power. It's not all of a sudden that, oh, this camshaft works and that it didn't work before because of compression. That's not what happens. And we showed this many times. And so that's always the example I use, is that Dart motor. It was very low compression, had a good size, pretty good 270, mid 270, mid 280 kind of thing. That's a big camshaft, certainly bigger than you're going to run in most street motors. But yet it still works great even with the low compression. But and we didn't necessarily need low compression, because we've also run it on a lot of 10-1 motors and 11-1 motors. But on this motor, naturally, because of it had the strength, it had forged internals, it had the Dart block, we had more than enough strength to run. We also put Dart 335 Pro 1 heads on it, and it ran it ran very well with that roller cam. But we ran a couple of blowers. We ran nitrous on it, ran a couple of blowers on it, and we ran it with the one that we're showing there in the thumbnail is an 871 from the guys at the blower shop, and it did very well. It ended up making more than 1,000 horsepower, which is not surprising. But the thing that I like about it, and I use this comparison a lot, that's that if we run it on a 454 or 496 or 540, and if we spin the blower at the same speed, we get a dramatic drop in boost pressure. Not dramatic, it doesn't drop at 10 pounds, but we get a decided drop in the boost pressure. And I want to talk about that tonight because that can be a good thing. But it depends. So here's the scenario. So let's say we have a 496, which I've done, and we have a 540, which I've done. We run the same blower on them, which I've done. We run the same pulley ratios, which I've done. And when we do that, the boost is lower on the 540 than it is on the 496. People want to know why. Well, it's a blower. I mean, it spins a certain amount and it provides a certain amount of boost. That's not what happens. It's a blower and it spins a certain amount of speed and it provides a certain amount of airflow per revolution, being a positive displacement supercharger, which that airflow amount actually goes down at higher speeds and certainly higher pressures. So it's not a linear thing. But when we spin it, it supplies a certain amount of airflow. But the question is not that. It's doing that. The blower's doing what it's supposed to do. So if we spin it the same speed on a 540 and a 496, you'd think, oh, well, it's spinning at the same speed. It's got to do the same thing. Well, that's only part of the equation. The other part of the equation is what's underneath it. What's going on underneath it? If we ran that 871 on a 1 liter sprint motor and spun it that fast, it would make lots and lots of boost. In fact, it wouldn't. That little motor probably couldn't turn that blower. But it would make lots and lots of boost. And the same thing happens with our two comparisons of different displacements. And the other thing that comes into play here, a lot of times guys will use displacement as the variable. But quite honestly, if we had a 540 that was only making 600 horsepower and we had a 496 that was NA making 700 horsepower, the boost would be lower on the 496, at least at the top of the power peak, where the power peak is, because it's processing more air. So that's what we're looking at. What does the thing that's underneath the blower, what is it doing? Well, it's going up and down and it's opening and closing and it's a big air pump. We use that example all the time, but it really is. It's an air pump and a combination that's making 600 horsepower naturally aspirated isn't as efficient of an air pump as one that's making 700, processing 700 horsepower worth of air. So the bigger motor, in this case, the 540 compared to a 496, makes more power NA, a pretty good bit more power NA. Let's say it makes 100 horsepower more. So when we put the blower on there, and put the blower on each one of them and spin at the same speed, now the blower, with its whatever speed it's running based on its pulley ratio, is supplying a given amount of air. Let's say that's a fixed amount of air, is supplying that. But the motor underneath it is processing more of that air. So what we see is that blower now, because what a Roots blower does is grab air from one side and brings it over to the other side, and we see that as boost on the bottom, on the lower part, on the lower manifold. But if we're using more of that, what happens is, good thing, the boost goes down. So we see a lower boost pressure. So you would think, hey, we're seeing lower boost pressure. That must mean we've reduced the likelihood of detonation. Yes, those go together. A lower boost number can theoretically reduce the likelihood of detonation. One thing that it does is, obviously, if we're running less boost, we have a lower charge temperature. And if our detonation threshold is caused by this charge temperature, we reduce that. We've improved the situation, make them more or less likely to detonate. That's part of the discussion. There's always more. The other part of that is, even though we're spinning the blower at the same speed and it's making less boost, it's also making a lot more power. Because the benefit of having the bigger motor that was making more naturally aspirated power, and now we're actually making the blower more efficient. Because a blower, any kind of pump like that, whether it's a fuel pump or an oil pump or whatever it is, the amount of boost pressure that it has to work against makes it less efficient. So if we reduce the amount of pressure that it has to work against, i.e. put it on a bigger motor that's processing more of that air, now the thing flows more air at that boost level. So what we'll have is a more efficient blower, lower boost, but a lot more power, certainly a lot more torque. Torque production usually is also correlated to the detonation level. So we got a lot of things: octane, air temperature, cylinder pressure, all of these things, chamber design, there's lots of things. All of these things can have an effect on the motor's sensitivity to detonation. So we've worked with one by lowering the boost, but we've also worked against another one by adding more power and more torque. So it might be that we really didn't change the detonation threshold too much. Maybe we did, maybe we didn't, because we don't know which one of those was kind of in control of making it detonate. We had low compression. We had a blower. We were, in this case, also running good fuel because we were 1,000, 1,100 horsepower water. Not that we probably couldn't have done it on pump gas. I think we could have. And I want to get into more of that. We're running a lot of the stuff on 91. We ran the NA motor on 91 because it's an 8.5 to 1 or sub 9 to 1 motor, and has a really big camshaft in it, so it's got no dynamic compression. That's the other thing, that's another thing that affects detonation threshold, is dynamic compression. Well, you can imagine we have low static compression and a really big camshaft, so we have very minimal dynamic compression. I never calculated it. Now that I say that out loud, I kind of want to go calculate it on this particular motor and see what it was, because that might be the lowest. Might be the lowest dynamic compression motor that I've run. I can't remember running another supercharged motor like that where we ran that low of static compression and that big of a camshaft combination. So it'd be interesting. I want to go take a look at that now. But so when we did that, we were adding some things and take away some things. So I don't know exactly how we affected the detonation threshold, but we certainly made more power. And the cool thing is we made more power at low boost. And on supercharged applications, I like to do that. I've always been a proponent from way back when I was doing the Vortex stuff. And you could spin the Vortex at a certain speed with a certain pulley ratio and not get into belt slippage, and all that's working. And then when you take it, like we used to do it on my 5-liter Mustang, and I ran it around forever, 85,000 miles with a lot of that with the blower stuff on it. But the thing is, when you make the motor more efficient, we put a good intake manifold on it, we put a camshaft in it, we put ported heads, and especially if we stepped up the displacement from a 302 to a 331 or 347 or 351 or 408 or whatever. Same thing happens with a centrifugal blower with the Vortex, and that's that we would reduce the boost level and make more power because we've made the motor bigger, and that's just nothing but good. And in the case of a centrifugal, having the bigger motor plays a double benefit, because the centrifugals are so soft down low that adding more torque there with the displacement is really a good idea. But making them more efficient, and then especially in the case of a centrifugal, when you add more RPM potential, which is a good idea, you also add more boost because the boost rises with engine speed. And we saw that actually on the Roots blower too. On this 871, the boost was going up as we went up in engine speed, which happens. The boost is going up; it's becoming less efficient, especially, and this is the case, as you get near the flow limit of the blower, you might see that taper off and go the other way. Or it may continue to go up and just pump heat, which is also not good. So the moral of the story is, on these bigger motors, on this big block, I like the idea of making the motor bigger, because the other thing that would happen in this case is with the static compression, we could make more power. We probably could use pump gas. The boost would go down. There are a lot of positive things that would happen from the bigger motor. One of those things is not fuel mileage. If you are putting a dual Dominator 871 on a 540-inch big block with a 270, 280 kind of camshaft in it, you're not going to be really looking for fuel mileage. That's not one of the things. But from a power standpoint, it is really good. And even from a power, we go to these other levels. So it's not just about making power. Can we make power, and can we do it safely? And is it not too hard on the motor? And then will it stave off detonation? And you have all of these things that you have to consider. And that's why going from a 454 to a 496 good idea. I mean, if you're going to build a motor, nobody builds a 454. Nobody builds a 396 except for me, or a 427, unless you're doing it for a restoration kind of thing. Not that there's anything wrong with them. It's just that if you're going to put together a 396 or 427, you might as well make it a 496 because you can. Maybe not with a 396 block, but you can. And if you did, it's just going to be better everywhere. You won't be able to make a 540 out of it because you can't get that kind of bore size in it. So making it bigger, definitely good. And because if you can tell people it's a 396. If you want to do that, you can put 396 valve covers on it, put the 375 horse 396 air cleaner on it. Then it's official, right? When you pop the hood of your Chevelle or Camaro or whatever, like, yeah, it's a 325 horse, 396 or whatever you want to pose it as. And it could be 100 cubic inches bigger, which is good. Or in the case of a 540 or 572 or 565 or any of those, you could be as stealthy as you want and make as much power as you want. So it's really good. That's why I like these bigger motors, because especially with the blower, they'll do everything better, except for fuel mileage. So we'll see what you guys got going on today. I'm gonna go ahead and ask my my poll here. So I've done some. I have the cam results from round 2 of the BTR test, and it, you guys are live feed guys. You probably know how that's going to turn out already, and it did. But I also ran the 8.1, so we did a cam test on the 8.1. So do you want to see the cam test on the 8.1 before any of the other videos that I do from down when I was testing at West Tech? So. Should I post? I haven't edited it yet, but that's what we'll be working on tomorrow. Should I post the 8.1 liter cam test video tomorrow? Before any others. Post 8.1 liter cam swap test video tomorrow before any others. Yes or no? Let's see what people say. Do we got Big Block 8.1 fans? Excuse me. Let's see. Turbo Centra, Sykes, Rich, Robert. Everybody's here, man. What's up? Russell. Alan. Jesse, what about big block Fords? Yes, they do like twin turbos. I haven't run a turbo on a big block Ford, but every motor likes turbos and twins even more. Twins are usually more of a fitment thing, but it still looks cool. Cam and springs only on a Gen 5 peanut port with a TBI. What cam and springs? I don't know. Can you, the cam that you can run is going to be fairly small. It's going to be 230 or so at 50. The thing that I don't know is will the tuning for your TBI be able to work with that? I don't know how much programming you have for that. Probably something smaller than that. Where's a safe boost range in comparison to compression? There isn't a direct correlation because we've run guys in racing applications run 12.5 or 13 to 1 and 30, 40, 50 pounds of boost. So it's a function of your intercooling and also your octane. And most of the guys that are doing that kind of stuff are doing it with methanol. So whatever your fuel is going to help dictate what you can run. Yeah, Milo, you're Bob's right. You're the stock throttle body and the amount of fuel that stock that even the big block throttle body can support is not very much. So I don't know how much you can get away with. And then, as I said, the tuning is going to be another question. Dave, I have an LS5 I'd like to sell. The big block Chevy. Burns is in the house. 440 plus boost is my favorite boosty big block combo. Turbo, you're not getting cams? It's Turbo Sentra. There's not enough material. BW in for tonight. Same old, same old. Turbo Sentra. Who are you talking to about your cams? Did you talk to the guys at Schneider or Webb? Three Saturdays from now, I'll be doing the timing set. Nice. I was very excited that I got to run the 8.1. I wanted to do the Dodge, and we think we may have figured something out on the Dodge, but we need to try it first. Camaro, you do need to get that Camaro out. No brakes. I was thinking about stroking my 440 into a 540. They do like that. You just need to make sure that you put some good heads on those Mopars. The stock 440 heads are just not going to get it. They're not going to cut it, usually even for a 440, but even less so for a 540. Boost is a measure of restriction, really applies to blowers, and a lower boost number means the engine is more efficient. Assuming we stay with the same pulley size. If we go up in pulley size and we add more boost, we will also add more power. Mike, I bought the Phytech Ultimate LS kit, and I can't stand the intake. Noisy. Is that's that fabricated one? There are lots of complaints about that. What would it take to switch to the LSX intake? Would any of my Phytech stuff fit like injectors and fuel rails? I don't know. I don't know it. Probably not on the rail and injectors. And are you talking about the LSXR intake manifold, the fast? If it's the fast, those injectors that you have on that Phytech will not fit. Neither will the fuel rail. My dad stroked a 446 spec with Indy heads, and it's a 69 Coronet. It's a monster. Is anybody looking for the following things? A T56 6-speed trans. It's brand new. It's never been run. A couple of Pontiac Turbo 400s. At least one of them was running when it came out with the 350 that I have. Just count on them both as being cores. If they're more than that, then you benefit that. And I have converters for those too. I have a new quick fuel 750 vacuum secondary carb. It's only ever been run once, and that was on that 400 that I have. I'm trying to sell a lot of this Pontiac stuff. There's also a Muncie M21 4-speed with the conversion stuff to switch from an automatic and a Pontiac. They had it in it. They're going to put it in a GTO, but to switch that out from the automatic, from this Turbo 400 that they have, to a manual, so an M21 with a shifter and stuff. So if you guys are looking for any of that, please send me an email and let me know. Here is my email address if you guys are interested in any of those stuff. The T56 actually is mine that I'm selling, or I'm trying to raise money so I can build some other stuff. And it's been sitting for a while, so I do want to get rid of it. I also have a set of Ford Blueprint aluminum small block Ford heads. So let me know. Richard, I'm ordering pistons for my street strip Dart 540 big block, running an air-to-water intercooled TVS 2650. They have a 2650 kit for the big block? I don't want to overspeed the TVS, dedicated E85. What compression ratio would you recommend for the most power? If it's an E85, you should easily run 10-1 on that. I don't know if you're trying to, if it's a street car, 10-1 would be fine. Superchargers have gotten so expensive these days. I can buy a decent used car for the price of the blowers are a lot. Any issues with the non-top hat style valve seats for LS? Pack still uses them. You mean for the stock ones? The stock ones versus the upgrade seals that everybody sells with their dual springs? Steve, my 10-1 F2 blown 427 small block Chevy only cranks 115 to 120 on cold compression test because the 274 286 cam. That will make a difference. Hope you get better weather soon. Building a small block Ford 347 for a Cobra replica. The headers are inch 5/8. I'm looking at Pro Max 185 heads. What size cam should I run? What's the expected power in a 2,000 pound manual car? With what is your induction system and what is the static compression and that kind of stuff? 347 an airflow 185 or the trick flow if they have them in stock. The trick flow 11R heads are really good. You can't go wrong with that. As long as I just don't know, the trick flow 11Rs might not work because I don't know what I don't know if you have inline valve reliefs on the pistons that you have. Nathan, I just finished a 671 454 Fords and balanced rotating assembly. Had it in a 3170 Pro Street Camaro. It was fun. Had a ton of torque. Wish I went twin turbos. Yeah, but you're having fun. 671 sticks out the hood, makes a statement. I'm going turbo LS now. I'm excited to see the difference of the two builds. It just depends on 671's not hard to beat. Not that a big block's a bad motor, but a 671 is pretty easy to beat with a turbo. Because the 671 is like 1,000 horsepower kind of blower. Eric, I didn't see your comment before that. I didn't know what you were talking about making go so fast. I'm always curious about that. I gathered some swap meet parts and built the 396 crank with a 454 block, and it was 13-1, 427. A picture next to it from a long time ago, a dual quads, 660 center squirters. There you go. Perfect. I really want to build a 427. I want to build an L88, but I need to get a set of L89 late L88 aluminum heads, which are really expensive. So I'm gonna have to try to raise money to do that. But the interesting thing is I was taking a look at the data from a motor that Westech just ran recently from a guy that's local that we know, a Chevrolet guy, Chevrolet dealership guy. He ran a ZL1, not even an L88, a ZL1. So the aluminum motor, and it made 565 or 568 or something like that. But it didn't have the stock ZL1 camshaft in it. And it had roller rockers. I'm told that everything else was stock, so I don't know about the cam. The specs aren't listed on the notes when I was perusing the dyno results, which I love. But that's cool. I mean, that's even a step above an L88. That's like the ultimate. But I would like to build an L88 and see what it does. But I'll do it after I do the 396. And I also have the 454, and I found another set of heads for the 454, so I'll be able to not have to swap heads to make that work. But again, they're not cheap. Let's see. Thinking man, send me an email. Wait, I'm trying to scroll back here. Still, there's a lot of stuff yet. Here we go. Richard, any luck with the 396 heads? Yeah, they're off and they're going back to Bostic Racing, and he'll be able to fix them. Bostic's really good. Bought 2 more complete engines and started building a V6 for it. Is it are they VQs or something, or are you going right to a J series Honda? Mike, big block fan. I mean, who isn't really? James, what's up, man? Nathan, a 78, 75 single turbo. That's actually going to be in par with a 671 then. Need an 88 or 94 if you want to make good power on a 6 liter. Those would be big. I just wanted to build an old 426 Hemi and make it look stock but massive cubic inches. I can't believe how much the rotating assembly weighs in a Hemi. I remember Brule was telling me about it. He said these things are terrible. Terribly heavy. Not terrible, like as in not awesome. They are awesome. Do you know why Cam Motion doesn't list advertised duration on their LS cams? They don't? I didn't realize that. Twin 79s or twin 88s on a 454. What is your desired power level? Are you wanting twin 88s? Is like that's like pro mod stuff. Why does the engine have to be big? I get it. Start with more power. Why not tune a small engine with 30 pounds of boost on 91 or 87 or 89? Okay. I talked to Delta Camshaft about my cams. I'll be calling some other people. I've been told no 5 times. Roman Dulcich from Engine Masters did some porting on 440 heads. I guess it takes someone. There's still a limited amount of real estate. There is the problem. That's why the aftermarket heads and an aluminum head is a better choice anyway, just to help stave off detonation. Thumper, I've got a bunch of other Pontiac stuff too. A bunch of that GTO stuff. There's some heater switches and steering wheels and probably some dash things, and there's quite a few things. Distributors and fuel pumps and a vacuum can. Does anybody need a vacuum can? There's a brand new one in the box. Yes, 1970 LS5, 390 horse, 454 forged bottom end with 119 oval port heads. Do those have what are the oval port heads that we tested? Somebody remind me. The 049s, does that have an 049 head on that? Is that what came in 1970? What are the odds you're live right now? Pretty good. Just randomly stumbled across your build on all cylinders website. Yeah, for I do some writing for the guys at Summit. It's in a YouTube title, 1968 Camaro Lunatic LS Twin Turbo. Cool. Check out the Skid Factory YouTube channel for the Harrop TVS 2650 intercooled big block. Oh, okay. I know the Harrop stuff. I hadn't seen one applied to a big block. Does the result of a compression test relate to peak torque? No, not in any way at all. I just got back 063 big block Chevy heads from the machine shop. After what happened to your heads, I'm nervous about mine. Yeah. Did they have to put new guides in the exhaust? That's the problematic area. Danny, you got an 8857 TBI. The TBI is definitely going to be limiting. The intake manifold is not very good. The throttle body doesn't flow very much, and the TBI injectors don't flow very much. So you would make a lot more power just taking that off and putting a dual plane and a carburetor on there. Nicholas got a square body 5.3 LS swap. The goal is 600 to 700 wheel horsepower, right in the range that you should be at. Single turbo build, cam springs, ring gap. Want to chop a copper cam to maintain some bottom end. Nicholas, I would pick their Chopacabra over a stage 2 turbo cam for that. You'll be able to make, if you have the right turbo that's capable of supporting your power level, you will be much happier with the Chopacabra than you will be a stage 2 turbo. That being said, watch the video that I'm loading right now. You'll be able to see it tonight or tomorrow. Watch that video, and I talk about, yes, the smaller cams make more low-speed power, and they have more boost response. But on a cam that doesn't have that, it still has a really big gain in torque. So does that matter? Let's see. Somebody's talking about a python. I need to find that. Did you see there was recently a 17-foot python caught in Florida that had over 70 eggs? It was about to lay. The big ones are almost all females, and they have lots of eggs. They can be anywhere from 30 to 100 that they said. And the biggest one that they've caught so far, I think, is just over 18 feet that they've caught in the glades, which is huge. Brian, there would be no way to calculate it directly because the advertised duration number isn't a direct conversion from the 50 number, because it depends an awful lot on the ramp rate of the cam and stuff. But it's going to be in the 290s. Nicholas, the phone sales rep guy that you talk to doesn't have any idea what he's talking about. I've already run the Truck Norris cam with boost, and we compared it directly to and the Chopacabra does the same thing. They don't leak boost. They can't because tell them that because a turbo has more back pressure than boost pressure. If it was going to leak boost, it would leak back pressure into the boost, and the boost would actually go up. So that's not happening. The Chopacabra cam will work perfect, and it will have more low speed power, and you will be able to make the power that you want. It will sound good, and it will be much more responsive. You will be much happier than the turbo cam. Just don't, when you talk to them and order the cam, don't tell them that you're putting it on a turbo motor. Just say, I have a truck and I want this Chopacabra cam, and don't listen to what they're saying, because they're sales guys and they don't know what they're talking about if they told you that. It does for a turbo combination. It doesn't have to be a turbo cam because what do we know about turbo cams? Every cam is a turbo cam. I had also had a conversation with Brian Tooley about this myth that's going around about somebody cam doctoring the Brian Tooley cam and saying that it's a 216 and not a 212. It's not. It's a 212. Whoever did that did not know what they were doing. I have some snowflake heads, but they are hogged out by the previous owner, currently on a 427 bracket car. Yeah, I need stock ones, and that's probably actually going to be harder to find now than ported ones. Hemis are heavy. The older ones definitely are, yeah. 30 psi with a small engine or 10 psi with a larger engine. What will live longer? I don't know. 30 psi on a factory motor with factory tuning and stuff seems to work pretty well. But it doesn't make nearly as much power as the 10 psi with a bigger motor does. At least the two motors that I'm talking about. Thumper, you can send an email. Okay. Thank you, man. The International Harvester stuff, I've never even taken a look inside of them. Reloading. Well, you got to vote, right? You got to rock the vote. At what RPM should I start seeing usable boost of the GT45 on a low-end cam 496? As soon as the starter stops spinning, probably. You're going to run out of turbo on a 496. Yeah, Nathan, 700 wheel horsepower will be right in a good spot for that 78, 75, especially if it's a Gen 2. Yeah, Nicholas, once you say turbo, they automatically go down the turbo cam path. You'll get that with a lot of them. But it's because they haven't tested it. And luckily you're at a place where we have actually tested it. No brakes. I think my 440 Winnebago has a 70-gallon fuel capacity, which means if I turbo it, it should have about an 80-mile range topped off. You must be driving it easy, right? I think it comes with forged internals and 8.5 to 1. Have you added boost to that HO big block crate motor? We did. Is that it, the 454? Is that the one that you're talking about? We did run boost on that. I have a video up on it because the guys from Rupp got one from the guys at Chevrolet, and we did run boost on it. What's the max compression you would run on an iron head? The iron head is one thing, but then also lots of other stuff going on. What is the chamber design like? Has it been polished? Has it been softened? What is the piston design? Where is the piston? What does the quench look like? What is the air temperature? What is the water temperature? All of that stuff is going to come into play. Well, and the octane. More power. The blower turbo thing for your 460 is either one of them will work, and either one of them will work well. But it's going to be a function of what you like, how it looks, can you do the fabrication, all of that stuff. Pontiac 421, 428, 455s are hard to find. I don't ever see any of those, obviously, in wrecking yards. Although I do have a set of 455 heads, though. Some 6X ones, I'm sure from a 75 or 76 something or other. So if I have a Pontiac guy, somebody let me know. These are 4.7 heads, and they're on a Pontiac 350. Please tell me that they're Ram Air 7 heads or something. Russ, happy to help, man. How's our pull doing? 92% still. That's awesome. Should I post the 8.1 liter cam swap test video tomorrow before any of the others? Lots of, not just big block fans, but Gen 7, 8.1 big block fans. Nicholas, that being said, I'm looking at a Precision 7675 Turbo. I've used those a lot. They're actually pretty good. It's capable of 1150. The website is that it's oversized for my desired 600 to 700 wheel horsepower. The only thing it's still going to be in its sweet spot, it'll be in a really good area for as far as the map on that particular turbo. They don't have one, I'm sure, but I'm pretty confident it's going to be in a good spot on the map. 700 wheel horsepower, let's say that's 800 to the flywheel. You're looking pretty good with that turbo. Pontiac 389, 350, 326. Most easily found 400 Pontiac, 67, 74, getting hard to find decent parts. I also have a 69 Pontiac 400 block that has the little thing for the clutch or the shift linkage, I think, or something. It's a manual transmission block. And I have a crank and rods and pistons. The pistons are the dual valve relief pistons, so they're probably not very desirable, but I'm sure that the block is. So let me know if you guys are interested in any of that stuff. And I have 3 sets of Pontiac heads too. More power, that would be a good idea. Aluminum heads on anything are a good idea. And then especially if you're running boost, it's an even better idea. And because it's going to be hard to find a good factory iron 460 head. 47 heads are basic small valve 350s. That's kind of what we thought. Put big valves in them, port them, and they're good pump gas. Are they, do they have big chambers on them? Or are they small chamber heads? I have a custom grind flat tap at cam 226, 233. It could work well with a peanut port head. Yeah, that'll be a good one. It's going to have a little bit of an idle, but that'll be good. Ram Air 5 is it? I want 7 though. Back in the day, 7 Prototype 428 versions coined Ram Air 4, 5, 455 coined Ram Air 7. All factory experimentals. I didn't even know that there was a Ram Air 7. I was just going to the extreme. I'd never heard of a 7. I'd only heard of a 4 or maybe a 5. Ford 4 LS5, but choked, breathing in the late 70s Winnebago. I can get it out and into a 69 Chevelle body. That would be a good motor. Chambers are 85 to 90. Okay. Burns, do you need 6.1 Hemi stuff? Oh, the other thing I have is Edelbrock aluminum Hemi cylinder heads. 6.1, 5.7, whatever, and the intake manifold. So again, send me an email. So it's 500 horsepower, unlikely with an 8.1 and the cam you put in, or has even had a decent aluminum head like a Trick Flow 280. Trick Flow doesn't make a head for the 8.1 because it's a Gen 7 motor. It would take some work to get a Gen 6 head on there. But with a ported version of that stock head and a milled one, and the intake manifold that Amos sent worked pretty good, but there's more power to be had from more camshaft on the, because there's more room for more camshaft than that ZZ that 502 cam that we ran. But a little bit of porting on the head and a little bit different intake manifold, I think probably would be over 500. Excuse me. I mean my F1R, not my knob. I'm thinking, man, yeah, that saving 300 pounds would be a lot. You know, our Ironheads, Richard, wanting easy 211 and 177 valve sizes desired. I'm gonna scroll back and see what you, oh. Tonight is full with good questions, yes. So if you're interested in any of those heads or whatever, just send me an email. Yeah, Burns, let me know. Oh, over 500 with a 224 cam? Yes, that would be possible with a ported and milled head, I think. And then I'd like to do, because I think Amos didn't do any internal porting on that intake manifold. A little different intake manifold would also do it, I think. Something that runs a little bit higher engine speed. What intake would you recommend for a 5.3 Gen 3 stock cathedral head? Same single turbo build. I've been talking about budget friendly. Don't mind spending $1,200 if the results are there. If you have a single turbo on there, I wouldn't change the intake manifold. I would just use the stock intake manifold. Just use the truck intake manifold. Nothing is going to get you more power because you're determining the power that you run by the amount of boost that you run from that turbo. The prototype Rammer 5 test engines use solid lifter roller. So they use roller cams? Rumors of 800 horsepower Ram Air 5 455. That's, what did those heads flow? That seems like a lot. How does the 8.1 intake compare to an RPM air gap? We have the Dart dual plane, which is kind of like that. So I'll be able to tell you exactly because we're going to run that. Judging by what we got, my buddy Andy, and I'm going to do a video on this, ran the HO motor from the boat, but ran it with the Dart manifold. And judging by what we saw there, I don't know that the Dart manifold is going to be a whole bunch better. I need to look at the RPM range. Everyone wants the cool looking intake. I know they all want that like shiny fabricated one, but it's and really with the turbo, you're going to make all the power that you want. It's just soft down low, and unless you get the race sniper that's thicker and has the better plate on, has a better lid on it, those things make noise. They have a frequency. They vibrate. Rammer 5 has a tunnel ports like the 427 tunnel port head. Same valve layout. the push rods going through the port. Somebody told me an interesting story about the Ram Air 5 heads and about the tunnel port heads and about how those might have been cross-mogenated. I thought it was an interesting story. I don't know if it's true or not, but I have a friend, Evan Perkins, has Ram Air 5 heads that he's doing, and they're cool. They're not cheap. Yeah, the truck intake manifolds are nice because they're free and they make good power. Just don't pick the LS1 intake. If you have the hood clearance and you have the intake that came with your junkyard 5.3, and you can make the 1,000 horsepower or 800 or 700 of the tire or whatever that you want to make, you should just use that. That's the easiest way. So the 8.1 needs something more like an air gap to make 500 horsepower. I don't know that that's the case. There is no air gap for that I know of. I think it just needs a shorter EFI intake manifold than what's in there. Nicholas, that's why I'm suggesting that you use, and you're not going to get 700 wheel horsepower at 8 psi. That's why I'm suggesting that you use the truck manifold, because the truck manifold is going to have more low speed power. 800 horsepower is going to be, I'll tell you. Actually, I think I could just do that with math. I like to look at data. Data is always better. So if we've got a turbo, we just did something today that was 700 and something. I know we can look up. I got you. We will go to turbo. Then we'll go to Big Bang. That will tell us about the best thing that you can do. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me right now? 6 liter? No, we don't care about that. 5.3 Big Bang. Let's see. So made 500 NA with that. And at 5 pounds, 5.5 pounds, it made 700 at the flywheel. I don't have anything lower than that, though. 900 was 13 pounds. So you're not going to make anywhere near that. So a cam is before 55. Yeah, you're going to be at 12 or 13 pounds. Not 8. Turbo aluminum L33. So sloppy stage 2 cam. So that made 660. 660 at 7.5 pounds. That was a 5.3 with the truck intake manifold, and it was an L33, so it had the 799 heads on it, and a sloppy stage 2 cam, and it made 660 flywheel at 7.5 pounds. That gives you an idea. I'm curious, how do you know if you need more gap on your plugs? On your spark plugs, if you have a turbo motor, you need less gap. You need 19 thousandths, 19 or 20 thousandths if you're running boost. On an NA motor, you can run more than that. I doubt you're going to be able to read a change in spark plugs from. I don't think you're going to be able to read a change in spark plug gap unless it's not firing. Reading spark plugs is good stuff, but not you can't read plug gap though. E85 or methanol injection works good. Yep. As long as it's evenly distributed. I was hoping to get an idea of what my 454 stroker will make with a 227 at 50 cam from this 8.1 test. A lot of variables I know, but hoping for a general idea. Do you have a Gen 4, 5, or 6 496 with a 227 cam? Because I probably have run something like that. Not on an 8.1, but on a 450. I mean, on a 496. Thanks for the help. We'll be ordering parts soon. Ordered training today. I'll be tearing in the engine. Nice. Still at 91%. I like that. We got more votes than we have viewers, which is good. Which I like. And we're already out of time. So we'll close our poll out at 91%. I like that. Gen 6 though 49s and 9.5 to 1 RPM air gap. Are the 049s ported? Stock 049s. And Andy, what compression is it? Peace. Rich, you'll be happy. Like Burns said, you'll be happy with the 85. And then now he's already trying to steer you into methanol, which will probably be even better. 9.5 to 1. 427, 227 cam. So I don't think it's going to be 500. I think it's going to be less than that. If you do the specific output of the 274 or the 282 cam that I ran in the Gen 6 454 with a dual plane and those heads, which I think that those heads probably are as good as a 049 head. Maybe an 049 might be a little bit better, but the if you do the specific output and you multiply by 496 up from 454, it only puts you in the 460 to 470 range. I'd love a twin turbo 557. That'd be good. The problem is I don't know what the strength is on a block once you go to a 557 on a stock block. Jason, thank you very much. The Coyote are definitely good motors. Definitely good. And on that note, I do have to get going because make sure you guys all go check out the video and please send me emails if you guys are interested in any of those things we talked about. So Andy, you could maybe it's a little bit more. You know, it's not going to be 500 though. I don't think. So it calculates out at 466. So 475 or something probably is what I'm guessing. And on that note, it is time to go. Go check out the video that I'm posting right now. It's done loading. I just need to put some more stuff up. But it will go up, and then I'll work on the 8.1 for tomorrow. Thank you guys all for voting. I will see you tomorrow.